Welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts Life and Happiness Podcast, the show that takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible.
Welcome to GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Alyssa Jo. Hello. How is it going today? I hope you're having a wonderful day so far. It is the start to a brand new week, so that is exciting. Every day is a new opportunity to create the life that you want to live. And I'm back with some more information to help you do that. Today I want to talk about growing a thick skin. In our world, there will always be criticism. There will always be negativity. Even, no matter how hard we try to overpower it with positivity and kindness, there will always be some kind of negative criticism or things that try to take us down, no matter what. And so that's why I think it's important to be able to grow a thick skin so that you can create the life you want and be as happy as possible, because you're going to have to just learn how to deal with the critics and the hatred and things like that, because it's going to come around in our lives no matter what. It's just the reality of it all. So having a thick skin can really help you go a long way with just having a good grasp on your life, I think, and understanding that, there will always be critics. There's always going to be negative opinions or different types of thoughts that, that you might not agree with or that don't agree with you or your work at all. And we have to learn how to accept those and take them with a grain of salt and really be able to understand that it's okay if people are saying these things and it's okay if, there's some hate comments and all this stuff. It doesn't have a reflection on you. It doesn't have a reflection on your work necessarily. It could just be like, there's just so much stuff going on in our world, especially with social media and the internet these days. I find what they call trolling on the internet is like those negative comments that people leave for no reason. And, there are those people in our world and it's unfortunate, but it's true. And so with social media being so huge, I think, cyberbullying and the hatred and the criticism can come off. I think it's a lot easier now to get that negativity because it's like social media is just so apparent in our lives. It's less common to get someone's not going to tell you straight to your face something that you really don't want to hear most of the time, right? So a lot of the time it's on the internet, it's online, you see comments or feeds, maybe you hear it through somebody else, whatever the case may be. I'm going to talk to you today about getting a thick skin, and I'm going to go through, criticism online, how to deal with those hate comments, how to deal with angry criticism, some tips and tricks, internet comments, all these different things that we can do to help build ourselves that thick skin so that we don't let these things tear us down or ruin our day or our work or make us give up, because especially if you are somebody that is in more of the public eye, like you're writing a blog, you have a podcast, a YouTube, maybe television, maybe you're kind of, your stuff is all online, or maybe you're in front of people a lot, maybe you're some type of performer or something like that. You're probably going to be getting more criticism and judgment than others who aren't putting their hard work right online for the whole world to see, or whatever the case may be. And I see so many people give up on things that they love and their dreams and becoming the person they want to be because of criticism, because of hate comments and not being able to really understand move on from that, or how to accept it and take it with a grain of salt and move on and get better from it. You know, we can actually take criticism and hate and we can make a good out of it. We can make positive out of it. And sometimes it's not even about, you know, when we take the criticism, what it does to us then. Sometimes criticism or the thought of hatred or all those kind of negative comments actually stops us from doing what we really want. Like I've seen friends and people who don't start their dream because someone, you know, close to them said that they couldn't do it, or because they received some kind of criticism or hatred that, you know, was not good, and it lowered their self-esteem and their ego, and it pushed them back from going after something that they really, really wanted. And I think, you know, we should never be held back because of other people's opinions. That's one thing that drives me nuts is not doing what you want because of others. And we spend a lot of time thinking of others, and I think that's you know, it's great, but we also spend a lot of time taking other people's opinions too seriously, or thinking of others and their opinion, especially if it's criticism, too seriously, to the point where maybe it'll stop us from doing something. And that's actually taking away such a large part of happiness from our lives, because we're stopping what we want to do because somebody else told us that we shouldn't or that we couldn't do it. And it just drives me nuts. So today, let's talk all about those tips of how to accept the criticism, how to turn it into something positive, and how to make sure that you still pursue your dreams even if you are receiving that type of criticism or hatred, whether it's online or in person, whatever the case is. So my first thing is, don't shy away from confrontation. And I find that sometimes confrontation has this kind of negative vibe around it, but confrontation doesn't have to be negative. I feel, you know, people may think that, that person is so confrontational. And yeah, there's a way to go about confrontation, for sure, but you can definitely confront somebody, and you can definitely stand up for yourself, in a respectful and kind way. I am all about kindness, but I'm also all about not taking shit from people. So, but we cannot take shit in a kind and gentle way. So you don't have to, confrontation doesn't have to be mean or angry or, a lot. It can just be standing up for yourself and having respect for yourself, and showing that person, or whatever the case is, showing them respect too in the situation. Kindness is great, and kindness is honestly the biggest tip for me today, that I'm going to give you today, is be kind, but I'll get into that a little bit later. But I also think it's just very important to be able to stand up for yourself and not let anybody knock you down or make you feel like crap about something, or stop you from doing something that you love just because of what they say. So, it doesn't have to come across angry or rude or anything like this. Like, it can just be straight up and honest with a smile on your face is the best way to do it, honestly. I just think standing up for yourself and not shying away from confrontation or what you believe in is a huge thing. That's why people comment stuff on the internet, because they're not going to get confronted about it face to face. That's why they do it, because they're too scared to do that to someone's face to face. Whereas, if you are able to walk up to somebody and confront them about a negative comment or some criticism that they gave you that was not fair, and you're able to do it in a positive way with a smile on your face, in a kind and respectful but straightforward and stern kind of way, I think that goes a really long ways. But we're not always, we don't always get that opportunity to confront somebody in person. A lot of the stuff we see is online. But, say you're in your workplace and you think you're getting treated unfairly, the criticism or any kind of negative comments that you're seeing is really, you don't think it's fair. I highly suggest standing up for yourself and confronting that person, because nothing will ever change unless you say something, unless you say it does bother you. Hey, you've been raining on my parade for a week now. This is really bothering me. Let's sit down and have a conversation about what's going on. Clearly, maybe your heads are butting at different, at the same, it's just not working. Whatever is happening, right? So sit down with the person, have a conversation with them, and see how far that takes you. I think it does wonders to actually just be able to stand up for yourself. And that person's also going to show you more respect because you were able to stand up for yourself and confront them, especially if this is, maybe your boss or something like that, that you feel like you're getting treated unfairly with criticism or, the lack of understanding within your work, whatever the case is, if you're able to stand up to yourself and show them, hey, no, this is what I'm doing. I respect myself. I respect you, but we need to figure out a way to be treating each other fairly and, maybe getting this criticism across in a better way. Because criticism can also come across, there's definitely constructive criticism, and then there's criticism that actually just literally rains on our parade and makes us feel like crap about ourselves. So we also have to find the difference between that, but this kind of all depends on you and your situation and where you're getting the critiques or where are you getting the hate or the negative comments. You have to be able to kind of figure that out yourself, navigate it as, is this constructive or is this something that, is not fair to me? Is this something that is disrespectful and mean? And is it something that really, really bothers me? So there's lots of things that this is going to, you have to ask yourself and figure out, is this constructive? Is this not constructive? Can I do something about it? But every single time I would say, if you do get the opportunity to talk about this situation in person, with the person who has done it, confront them. I highly suggest confrontation is a great way to show respect for yourself and for the situation. All right, it's time for a little bit of a break, but I have so many tips to share with you today, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? The GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast is a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts America Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today. Download the GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back to GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Alyssa Jo. Okay, so we just talked a little bit about confrontation. I think it's a great way to stand up for yourself, a great way to show respect for yourself and to the person that might be showing you some criticism. Now, let's talk a little bit about, I mentioned that there's, constructive criticism and there's also angry criticism. So when someone is lashing out at you, giving you critiques, saying negative comments, and it's coming in a very angry, negative tone, you always have to remember that anger, that probably means that person is hurt in some way. If it's an angry type of criticism, that person is hurting in some type of way, whether you did it or they're hurting in a different way and they're taking it out on you. Anger is a secondary emotion. It is a reaction to a softer primary emotion that is underneath, like hurt, shame, guilt, humiliation. A lot of people won't admit that they are ashamed or guilty or humiliated by something, but they will come across as angry. So people that are hurt, they then get angry. It is a secondary emotion. So when you're experiencing angry criticism from somebody, my best tip for this is try to figure out that underlying primary softer emotion that they might be experiencing. Are they hurt? Are they feeling guilty, shame, humiliated by something? It could be lots of different things and lots of different reasons that might not even have anything to do with you. But if you were trying to kind of maybe this is somebody that you know and they're giving you a lot of this hatred, criticism, it might be a good idea to try to figure out kind of what's underneath that anger that's coming across that way. We have to sometimes we have to push aside, our feelings for a second to help somebody else, because when we are getting critiqued, especially if it's, if it's quite often or if it's online, that is a reflection on the person and not you, most of the time. So we have to understand that, and that, people do go through things, and angry criticism is a thing, and they might just be hurting and taking it out with this angry critique. doesn't make it okay, but there are sometimes underlying reasons. So for you to help, I think it makes it easier on us to help better understand those critiques and accept them with a grain of salt and build our thick skin by understanding that, it's not just about you. There's some underlying emotions or things probably going on. So just try to find and listen for their emotion beneath their anger. It's easier to feel sympathetic towards the critic that way. So yeah, try to find those underlying emotions that might not be so on the surface. Now, this kind of leads to my next step, is being noble, and this is my number one thing. Kill them with kindness. This works. You will throw this critic off balance if you are nothing but kind to them. Eventually, this person might even apologize to you, or they won't even feel satisfied at continuing to critique you or try to tear you down, because they aren't getting the rise out of you that they originally wanted. A lot of the time when people are giving us very negative, angry critiques that are just rude and mean, it's because they're trying to get a rise out of you. They're trying to get some type of attention. Once again, it's a reflection on them more than us, but the thing is that, it still happens, and the best way to handle it, I would say, is kindness. Is be as kind as possible. Always take the high road, take the kind route, be the person that goes above and beyond to spread kindness, even when that person is trying to tear you down, because this person will not understand what to do, or, where to go now, or, they might just actually apologize to you and, kind of bring out their little softer side. They might just leave you alone completely, but either way, this makes you, you are the better person in the situation, 100%. Kill them with kindness. This critic will not know what happened. It throws them off their path. Either they're going to leave you alone, or they're going to apologize to you and maybe work it out and have a conversation. So always, always, always choose kindness. I know it's really difficult to not lash out back sometimes and to not make a rude comment back, because we get hurt when someone is being mean to us. We obviously get hurt, and it makes us angry, probably because we have underlying emotions, and then sometimes then we might want to say something back. But the best thing to do is be kind, or ignore it completely, especially with the internet comments. If you can just literally completely ignore them, not even read them if it's possible for you, that goes a long ways. But either way, be kind all the time. It seriously will do wonders for everything. If someone is angry at you for something that you cannot control, try to redirect their anger outwards to the right direction, like the situation. I hope that made sense. So if someone is, coming at you for a situation, and you just redirect their energy, redirect that negative critique to the right area. So if they're coming at you about, some work meeting that didn't go well, and, they're, what is this and this, and they're, freaking out, you go, it's okay. I know it's unfair. I wish the meeting went differently as well, or whatever the case is. Try to redirect that energy, take it away from you. A lot of the time we do get critiqued or comments on something that is completely out of our control, especially if you're online and maybe you're talking about a product or something on your social media feed, and then one person doesn't like that product. Well, it's not your fault that they don't like that product. You like it and you're promoting it on your Instagram, and that's great. But someone who doesn't like it is going to come around and make a comment, and that's completely out of your control. And all you can do is say, I understand, maybe this product might work different for you, or this, or try to give them more points. Yeah, but this is a good way to look at it, or this, and just try to redirect that negative energy into the right direction, which is probably the situation or something like that that's not actually at you. We get targeted for things we cannot control all the time. It's inevitable. So the best thing to do is either completely ignore it, show them kindness, or, try to redirect that energy elsewhere. Now, remember not to blame others or get really defensive. This is obviously when we get emotionally hurt, or, that critic is really bothering us. We get really defensive in our arguments, and defensive arguments do not come across as mature or logical at all. And blaming can make you look quite pathetic if you're just pointing fingers, especially if you don't know what exactly, you're saying, or you don't know the truth, or you're just kind of pointing and blaming and getting defensive. That's coming across in a really negative way as well, and more critics are going to come after you. So if you're able to just not blame others and just accept it, be kind, move on, that is going to help grow your thick skin. When we blame and when we get defensive and we kind of get into that moment, that's actually kind of tearing down our skin, and we're letting the critic win by giving them that rise, that attention that they wanted. So build your skin by not giving that person attention, not giving in to their negative comments or anything that they're doing. Now, dealing with some negative feedback is really difficult. No matter whether it's in our control or out of our control, whether it's someone that's just being completely unfair, that's really difficult to deal with. But I think it's even more difficult to deal with negative feedback when it's presented really fairly to us. Like, if that makes sense, like the hardest thing to deal with and hear is negative feedback when it's actually presented to you in a mature and professional way. Because often we don't want to hear it. We just don't want to hear this type of feedback, and that's when we can get really defensive. So the way that we interpret things has a lot to do with this. It's not always what they say, but it's how you hear it. This kind of sounds a little bit confusing, but if the person said something that has thrown you off of your game for quite a while, maybe you heard a critique and it really kind of threw you off, that probably means it pushed your buttons for a while. If it was consecutive days that really bothered you, it stayed in your head, or it made you kind of change paths or figure something else out, that person probably pushed your buttons quite heavily. Whereas if, you heard a critique, it might hurt in the moment, but then you were able to move on from it, or you were able to just kind of forget about it within a day or so, then, it's all about the way that you interpret and the way that you want to respond to it. But when it's something that really has pushed your buttons to the point where it's kind of pushed you off track, or made you, really kind of maybe just go off to a different pathway, or really affect you in a lot of ways, that's something that maybe you need to address. Whereas if it's something that, it doesn't really affect you that much, or hurt you in the moment, it makes it obviously a lot easier to be able to push that aside and move along from it. But getting negative feedback from someone who is presenting in a very professional and logical way, it actually is a lot harder to hear, because we understand that they're being logical and stuff, instead of just somebody kind of getting angry and yelling mean things at you. It hurts, but it hurts a lot more when it's logical. So try, when this happens, just to be able, remember like who you are and where you're coming from, and maybe that person is really just trying to give you constructive criticism. This is where the kindness and the confrontation can really come in handy, to talk to them, especially if it's coming across in a very logical and professional way. Respond to them in a very logical and professional way and say, I don't really understand this. Maybe the way that they're talking to you, I don't really understand. Can we have a conversation about it? I would like to, better see where you think I should take my next project, or where you see my work going from here, and be that professional and logical person back to them, and you're going to be able to have a responsible and mature and respectful conversation. So always kind of, you can match them. If it's always the way that you interpret something. So if you interpret it as, okay, they are being logical and professional, maybe it is something that I really do need to consider, whether, if you interpret it as kind of something that doesn't really bother you, it doesn't really make sense in your head, then completely leave it behind and don't waste your time dwelling on that. So this is all kind of deciding factors from you. You have to decide how you're going to interpret that critique. All right, it's time for a little bit of a break, but when we get back, I have a few more fun tips to share with you, so don't go anywhere. We're going to be talking about dealing with internet comments directly soon. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Things about dealing with the internet comments. This is just something that is so apparent in our lives because social media is so huge. So for my tips of dealing with internet comments, okay, think of it this way. I heard this saying the other day and it honestly changed my mindset to so many different things. They're saying that the comment section is the bathroom wall of the internet in most cases. I find that so funny because the bathroom wall, even if have you ever seen like things written on the bathroom wall and stuff too, just the most ridiculous, anonymous things. Maybe if you go into a public bathroom, or whether when you were in high school, there might have been things written on the bathroom wall or whatever it is. And it's usually ridiculous things that people come up with, and that, it's completely irrelevant. And you look at it, maybe you chuckle, maybe like, oh, well, that's rude, wonder who that's about kind of thing. Like, you look at it, it's like, ugh, gross. But then you don't really, it's just on the bathroom wall. It's just kind of irrelevant. Like, it really doesn't matter, like, at all. And so when I saw this saying that, internet, the comment section is the bathroom wall of the internet, it just made so much sense to me because it's so true. Though 90% of the comments, especially if you are somebody who does have a big blog or a YouTube or has a lot of their life on the internet, the comment section can be your worst enemy because you're always going to have people that don't like you. That's just the way of life. It really is. But the thing is that, there are good comments and those good things. And luckily we do have things that you can kind of filter out the bad comments these days. There's settings and things like that. But either way, you are going to see some hatred comments. But always remember that those comments are written on the bathroom wall. They are irrelevant. What matters is how you feel about your work and how proud you are and, the people that matter to you. So remember who the person is to you as well. Is it someone who loves you and cares about you? Is it someone that you actually respect their opinion? Maybe you look up to them. Maybe it's a mentor or a boss and you really value their opinions and thoughts. I'm not saying that these people might be commenting on your stuff, negative things, but even if you get some kind of criticism from somebody that you truly care about, or that you really look up to, maybe that's something that you need to take a step back and really try to understand and figure that out. And maybe you do need to work harder, change your work, or get on a different path. Those people are trying to help you. And then there's the people who, say things anonymously on your comment section, and they are just writing on the bathroom wall. That's all they're doing. They're writing on a bathroom wall. No one's really going to pay attention to it. No one really cares. It's irrelevant. So try to keep that mindset in your head next time you're looking at comments and they're bothering you online. Just think of it, it's just the bathroom wall. The best thing to do is to it's just to avoid over-analyzing those comments as well, because especially if this person is anonymous commenting on your things, that is literally completely irrelevant. It has nothing to do with you. They really are just trying to get a rise, trying to do something in their spare time. It's a reflection on them, not you. Easier said than done to just kind of avoid those things, but the more that you get sucked into a comment section or to receiving hate online, you're letting them win. Don't even give them the breath to read those comments. Don't even give them the time of day to reply back or anything like that. What matters is how you feel, and so just avoid over-analyzing things, especially, if they're written on the bathroom wall. Would you ever overanalyze something written on the bathroom wall? Probably not, okay? So don't overanalyze, or even any type of criticism. Just try to avoid overanalyzing it, especially if it's something that, you truly don't believe in yourself and you're proud of something that you've done, then that's all that matters. Be proud of you and move on. You are higher than that. You are better than that. You are more kind than that. So just be able to just stop overanalyzing and move on with it. Now, this kind of leads into, your critic is more of a reflection on them than it is you, whatever they are saying. But if you're someone who has always been an overachiever, or you work really, really hard to get people to like you, you've just been that type of person where you just want everyone to like you, you're an overachiever, so maybe you don't get a lot of criticism in your life, or you haven't had a lot of criticism in your life. Getting criticism can be really scary and difficult when you're not used to it, and it can hurt because you don't quite understand that, not all criticism is true, which is a huge tip for you today. Not all criticism is true. Not every hate comment that you get, or a rude thing that someone says, or any critique is true at all. That doesn't mean it, it could be emotions behind it. It could be that person was having a really bad day and they're taking it on you. Or also remember, it could be true. I know. I'm sorry. But it could, because, maybe there are people that want us to do better. And, nobody's perfect. We can always push harder, work harder, do more. And, maybe your work isn't where, the standard that you could be. Maybe these people know that you could do better than this. And so they're trying to help you. I don't think criticism is necessarily a bad thing. Actually, criticism is actually a really good thing. It's just having that thick skin to take it is what's really crucial about the whole thing, because if you don't have that thick skin, you can kind of take things to heart and it can tear you down or stop you from doing things that you love. So, especially if you're someone that is not used to criticism, it's really hard to deal with, and I completely understand that. But I read this thing about Stephen King, this was in his memoir, and he actually writes that he stuck every rejection letter on a nail in the wall of his bedroom until it would no longer support all the weight. And then he would replace the nail with a spike, and he kept going. Okay, so, but on some of those rejection letters, he also got some handwritten scribbles of praise and advice, which actually just kept him going even as the spike continued to fill. So holding on tightly to tiny bits of guidance and admiration, even if it's kind of in the midst of your negative feedback, a compliment basically that's wrapped in rejection can go a long way. So rejection is good. Criticism is good because it teaches you can do better and you can keep fighting and there is more. And we always want to be working to our absolute best ability. And being able to accept the rejection, accept the criticism, those hate comments, but not taking them to heart and not letting them veer you off of your path. If you are able to take that with your thick skin, okay, maybe take some of it into consideration, because some critics are true, and some of that criticism and hatred that you receive, there might be some things that you can fix. But not every single thing is going to be true, and not every single thing should affect you in a very impactful way. Whereas some critiques will, some critiques won't. So it's always kind of understanding yourself, and you analyze the situation to the depth that you need to, but don't overanalyze it. Always kill the person with kindness. Confront them when possible. Just avoid the comment completely. This is with Stephen King's thing. Maybe you're not going to be putting rejection letters on your wall, but maybe it's the comments, on your YouTube video, and maybe you see, a few negative comments, but then there's a couple really, really positive, happy ones that people are really enjoying your videos. Pay attention to those, and pay attention that they are in a midst of criticism. And there's nothing wrong with that, because you're going to get criticism no matter what. But there are those 2 comments that really made you happy, that are really positive, and hold on to those. That is a compliment that might have been kind of, lost in a feed of other maybe not so great comments. But that's okay, because there is those compliments in there. There is that positive feedback in there, even if there is some negative feedback as well. Negativity, negative criticism, it sounds obviously terrible, and it is terrible when it's taken in a way that's really going to hurt us and that can really, affect our path and where we want to go. But we can also take those criticisms and we can do better with our lives, and we can push harder and want more. And, sometimes hate really motivates people. I'm gonna do better. Maybe it's gonna be that motivator for you. But it's hard to let that be your motivator until you grow this thick skin to be able to push yourself to understand that should just be a motivator. It shouldn't push you down. It should just motivate you to do more. Not stop your content, continue your content, keep going. Which, you'll probably have lots of ups and downs with this. Sometimes the criticism is going to really take you down and it's going to hurt. Whereas other times you'll see the criticism as motivation to keep going and keep fighting. So it all depends on you and how you're going to take it and the situation that you're in. Try to pay attention to who is giving you the criticism. Is it someone that's writing on a bathroom wall, or is it someone that you really care about and look up to? Is it just in your negative comment feeds, or did someone come up to you at work and confront you with something and say, look, this is work is not where it should be. So you kind of have to adjust to your situation and figure it out. But really what's going to help you with building a thick skin is time to see these hate comments and to get the criticism and to get your boss to say, this isn't working. That's really all it's going to take to build that thick skin is time. That's really all I can tell you. That's my, kindness and time are my two biggest tips for you today, because we can't always just accept criticism as easy as it is. Like, building a thick skin is difficult, but once you do have that thick skin, it goes such a long ways. So I hope today's episode kind of motivated you to take criticism in a different light, to try to reflect on it a little bit more, maybe not overanalyze some comments on your feed, or, take things with a grain of salt, and just understand that it's going to take time and patience and sometimes a lot of criticism for us to build that thick skin. But once we do have that thick skin, that criticism actually can be really beneficial in our lives. So always hold on to that. Remember that good things are coming for you, even through these hate comments. There's still some compliments. There's still some positive comments. So hold on to the positive comments for yourself, because that will keep you going throughout until those hate comments start motivating you. And I promise one day they will. Okay, thank you so much for listening to today's episode of GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Alyssa Jo. I so appreciate you being here today. Thank you so much. Please do not forget to hit the subscribe button, to like and follow us on social media, and leave a 5-star review. I look forward to sharing more information with you next time. Stay positive, stay healthy, and spread kindness every single chance you get. Till next time, thank you.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Life and Happiness Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find the show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type in GSMC to find all of our shows from the GSMC Podcast Network, from sex and relationships to health and wellness, life and happiness, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's episode of the Golden State Media Concepts Life and Happiness Podcast.